It's The Journey with drug and alcohol attorney Mark G. Astor.
Welcome to The Journey with Mark Astor. I'm your host, Mark Astor. I spent a lot of years sitting across the table from people during some of the most challenging moments of their lives as an attorney, an advocate, and as someone who understands that the road isn't always straight. What I've learned is that success, recovery, and growth rarely look the way we expect them to. There are detours, hard conversations, and moments that change everything. On this podcast, I talk with people who are willing to be honest about their journey, what worked, what didn't, and what they wish they knew sooner. So this morning, I am very excited because we have our very own Jessica Douglas, who is our Chief Operating Officer. And before I talk to Jessica, I'll tell you a little bit about her because she's a very special member of the team, and we have been very excited to have her. She's been with us since November of 2025. She worked from 2018 till she joined us in 2025 with How to Manage a Small Law Firm. And I've talked about them before, but I worked there for a year, and they teach lawyers how to run their law firm like a business instead of like a glorified job that was full of chaos and catastrophe. And Jessica, in addition to being our fractional chief operating officer, was the chief operating officer for literally hundreds of other law firms. And after we worked with her for quite a bit of time, we were like, okay, I think we really want Jessica to come and help us with our law firm. So we've been very excited to have her. But before that, believe it or not, she was actually a practicing attorney in Texas. She really knows how to keep us in check. I am very happy that you're here, Jessica. And we're going to have an important conversation about how our law firm works and why, frankly, I think we do it better than anybody else. And I don't mean just from a legal perspective, because the legal what we do is obviously great, but making sure that our clients get a great experience with us from the minute they find us online until the minute we close up the case. Hey, good morning.
Good morning to you. I am glad we both have had our coffee and we're here.
Yes, me too. I think mine's kicked in. So before we get into talking about our law firm, let's talk a little bit about what got you to the stage. Obviously, you practiced law and then you went into Hope another law firm. So give us a little bit of your background, if you would.
I went to law school, graduated from the University of Georgia School of Law at 22 years of age. So I fast tracked my way through that and figured if I didn't get through it, I would never. So I just went straight through. Probably a little burnt out by the end of that. So I didn't take the bar right away. And I had interned with some judges and did some clerkships, but never worked in a law firm. And I thought maybe I should do that before I take a bar exam and decide that this is going to be my path. Started working for a criminal defense firm in Atlanta, Georgia, true solo when we started. And it became very apparent to me that here was a very experienced, brilliant attorney, really good in court, really knew what to do with files and paperwork and things like that, but had no business running a law firm. None. There was no budget. There was no business plan. There were no processes. There were no how to do anything. I kind of was just thrown in and you go and figure it out. And blessing in disguise, maybe it wasn't the most wonderful experience in that moment, but it forced me to learn marketing. It forced me to learn things like glide paths. There are things that actually happen to clients when they come calling to a law firm and all the different various things that can happen to those clients and why it's important to have structure around how you do an intake, for example. So I got to learn a lot of the business that way. And I decided I really do like law firm life. I just didn't realize I wasn't going to necessarily love the practice of law. I liked more the operation side. So that sort of shifted how I looked at my law career. And when I started working in other law firms and started doing more in-house counsel type of roles, that's what I started to do, write process and manage other attorneys for the financial institutions that I was in-house counsel for. We would hire other law firms to do the litigation work. And I had to actually manage these firms from my vantage point in an in-house counsel seat and figure out how am I going to quality control their work and how am I going to make sure that the deadlines are not missed and all of that fun stuff. And so every single role I've had up until I started with How to Manage was from an operational standpoint. And then How to Manage really just gave me a huge amount of exposure into all different kinds of law firms as they start, as they're in the middle of their journey, as some of them are getting acquired or sold or whatever those owners are going to do. So, all different kinds of stages of growth, all different areas of the country. And I got to see inside how these firms operate. And I decided there would be only one I would ever work for. And so here we are.
Here we are. It's interesting. I've talked about this before, but I know when I went to law school, they didn't teach us anything about running a business.
No,
And I'm willing to bet they didn't teach you anything either in law school.
no. It
So,
was very shocking for me to go in and see multiple law firms and they have the same story. The owners, or they start off being very good attorneys, but have to learn how to be business managers. And that is a different kind of skill. And you don't get it in law school.
yeah, and I think one of the interesting things that I've noticed is if you ask 10 lawyers what is the business of a law firm, probably at least 9 of them, if not all 10 of them, will have no idea. They just don't know.
No,
And the other thing is that when you try to tell lawyers they know nothing about business, they take great offense because unfortunately lawyers have a little bit of a God complex, right? Because we know everything. Even the stuff that we don't know, we know it. We just haven't figured it out yet.
correct. And that makes us dangerous because we know just enough to sometimes get in a little bit of trouble. And I've seen that too.
So you came on board, you've been with us fractionally, so we were meeting with you twice a month. And then you came on full time, which we've been very excited about since then. Do you think that the firm was running pretty well before you came on full time?
I do. And there are a couple of things that I think that there are law firm owners that I know that take action, and I see it as the number one, I believe, contributor correlated attribute for success. When owners take action, and I think that you and Audra are extremely action oriented and you're coachable. So that God complex you were talking about, yeah, there's things that sometimes I know that we might butt heads on, and we sometimes might come to different viewpoints on certain things. But if there is a best practice to follow, or if there is a good way to do something, you are open and you want to take action on it. And I think that's the biggest difference.
If you want to help more people, you have to build a team. And obviously, that you stop bringing more people into the team that are working for you. You can't just say, oh, go do your job. They'll be like, what is my job? You have to be very specific about what you're actually hiring somebody to do. And I think part of what you helped us to do was to really define each person's role because then they knew what their responsibilities were.
Yes. So I think everything was operating great. I think what we have been able to do in the last 6 months is do some of those just little tiny hinges that can swing great big doors, right? So it's just continuous improvement of process. It's been training. We have an onboarding program that I believe is world class.
Somebody brand new comes to join us, right? We spend a bunch of time training them.
Correct. We do not just throw them into the wind and say, good luck, and we hope that you're successful here. What we really try to do is a 30-day full onboarding. It is almost like a university. There are modules, there are tests, there's quizzes, we have recorded trainings, we have in-person trainings, and it's done so that the person that is going through the onboarding stays engaged, understands their role, understands their expectations, and can quickly get up to speed. But if we just throw them in, we don't get a return on investment. We do not see these people succeed. So we've decided that new employees get 30 days of onboarding and training, and they really take to it. It makes a huge difference.
So let's switch gears for a second because I do a lot of this podcast and I put out a bunch of videos every day. And we've been very excited because people call and say, oh, I want to talk to the guy in the video. And sometimes I'm able to do a consult and sometimes I'm not. It just depends on how busy the day is. But one of the things that we have found with all the online success we're having is that people only want to work with me, and I'm flattered. But we have two really phenomenal associates and it just isn't practical. Maybe you could talk about that. Why, frankly, they're better off not working with me.
Yes. So one of the things that I know is the myth that I'd like to bust is the idea that you see an owner, or for example, in our case, the law firm owner, the attorney giving lots of information, and basically you're telling everyone your expertise, which you are a subject matter expert in this particular field of law. And so people get excited when they see you and hear you and they know that you are phenomenal at what you do. But here's the thing that I want to make sure people understand when they are looking at law firms and that they are hiring attorneys to do important work for them. You don't want your heart surgeon on call. You just don't. We have a very intentionally designed thing is structure a team. We have pods in our firm. Each pod has an attorney, a paralegal, and a legal assistant that is dedicated to that particular matter. These attorneys are trained by you, they get ongoing training, and they are managed, and they have lots of criteria by which they have to continue their work and do the workflow for that particular matter. This ensures not only quality, that a minimum level of quality for every single file that we handle is met, but it allows us to help more people. It frees you up from having to be a very haggard, stressed, spread too thin attorney that is taking calls on their cell phone while also trying to be in court, while also trying to run a business. That's not the kind of attorney I want to hire. I want to hire someone that has a mature business with sophisticated systems that other people are running, so that the owner can do what an owner does best, which is manage the business and make sure that all of these files, all of these clients, and everything are handled to such a level of quality. We do very hard work for our clients, and our team is dedicated to making sure that level doesn't fall just because we're not Mark. We don't want that to happen. We want it to be that everyone gets as much out of their relationship with us as we possibly can give them. And that's how we do it, is through our team.
Yeah, one of the things I've talked about online, Jessica, is the fact that sort of all the very clinically challenging cases seem to come to us, right? I always say I'm not looking for the local easy Marchman Act case. We take those very sophisticated eating disorder, psychosis cases where they're very challenging, right? Where we're doing guardianship and maybe a Marchman Act and somebody gets Baker Acted and then they get arrested. And I think actually from our perspective, obviously you have a very unique skill set, as does my wife, Audra. And I spent 20 years in the criminal justice system. And we also do a lot of work under the Baker Act. And we're very closely aligned with a couple of really phenomenal clinicians. And I think that, frankly, that separates us to be able to handle those very challenging cases, right?
I do. And I think that brings me back around to why your team is so important to the outcomes of that our clients want to have. It's because the word is everywhere. Mark is everywhere. It's our little theme. It's a little running joke, but you're everywhere. And it's important because if you're not, people can't find us. I think one of the things that I just want to make sure I think is very important is that we have our team so that you are freed up to take on some of these complex cases and help them, because you have people that know how to do the level of work. You're still able to come in, and you're not there is the point. You're still able to assist, train, help. In fact, you do meet with the attorneys. We have structured meetings every week, and they get your knowledge and expertise on the daily anytime they need. But you are not necessarily the one that has to handle every single aspect of these files, because you've trained your team.
The other thing is, I think we talked about the whole idea of giving out the cell number, which, probably the first year or two I did that because I started from ground zero with no money. But obviously, what I found that did is it just wiped me out. I was just no good to anybody at that point. Now, our phones are answered 24/7. And I always tell clients, look, if you need us, the phone will be answered. As long as somebody's awake to take the call, we'll take the call. But I routinely still cover on the weekends. We have a team that works on the weekend. We file cases all weekend long. There's always somebody answering the phone. We have somebody in intake. We have a paralegal. So we run a crew on the weekends, even when we're needed to. So I think that's important to people to understand. It's not just that we're not there. We are, but we have to have a certain structure to give quality service to everybody.
Exactly. Going back to what you mentioned about the clinicians and some of our relationships that we have with interventionists all over the country, you have outstanding relationships and very personal relationships with a lot of people that are ancillary to what we do. So the medical professionals, the treatment professionals, centers, entire businesses that help provide treatment. We don't just stop at the legal service. This is a whole gamut of support that we're trying to ensure that our families have, because it's not just the filed paper that helps the person, it's how that filed paper then gets turned into treatment for that person. And so when you are allowed to go and continue to cultivate those relationships, they matter and they help our clients so much.
One of the other things, obviously, we're very active in the behavioral health space. And I tell potential clients when they call us, well, we're here to, just to give you options. And sometimes there just may not be sufficient evidence for us to go down the legal pathway. Or sometimes something a little more gentle, like an intervention, might work. And I think for us, it's about, because our mission statement is to save families. So what's the right option for the family? And because we're so active in the behavioral health space, we're able to connect potential clients with the right clinician, the right treatment center, the right interventionist. And if we're needed, if we're not.
Exactly. And I think that is part of our mission. We're all tied to this particular culture that we have developed in the firm. There's something about the line of work, these particular clients and what they face, that we all have some personal attachment to. And I just cannot say enough that we're not going to just file the paper or just do the work or just take on anybody that we can just because we want to open a file and take a person's retainer. That's just not what we do. We are really interested in the total client management. How is this person going to see our firm as something that has helped them? And it can be in so many different kinds of ways. And sometimes it's not by taking a retainer and opening a file. It looks like connecting them to services and sometimes just being an ear for them to talk to and to get some much needed hope that there are other steps that they can take. And then when they're ready, or if they do need us, like you said, they can come back. And we have seen that too.
Yeah. Can you maybe just take a few minutes to sort of walk somebody through what it looks like? They find us online. How do we go from there to now we're engaged in legal services and we're in court?
There's lots of different ways to contact the firm. You can call, you can fill out a web form. We have an answering service, like you mentioned, that's after hours and also on the weekends, 24/7. Someone is here to pick up your call. And when that call comes in, or a web form or a text, sometimes we even have referred people come in through text. However, we get that particular person's information, we can take that call as quickly as we can. So we have a team of client engagement specialists that take these calls and have been trained. They go through that extensive training that we talked about a little bit earlier. They are able to actually go right in and help consult with those clients. You're not waiting on weeks out for a consultation to speak with an attorney. We recognize that sometimes a lot of these matters are very time sensitive and urgent. So we want to make sure that we are talking with people as quickly as we can. Our client engagement team, I'm going to brag, they're top notch. We can't do what we do without them. They're fantastic human beings, personally and professionally. They take these calls and they help people understand the goal. What are the goals? Because the goals are not necessarily, like I said, just filing a petition or getting the guardianship. There are other goals that these loved ones want for the people they're calling for. So we really try to have conversations with them. What are goals? What are you looking to achieve? If you could wave a magic wand, what would that look like? And we get them to really tell us what it is that they are experiencing, going through, and what they need. From there, our client engagement specialists can offer options. They tell them there are services that we can provide or not. Sometimes we are directing them to other places, like we've discussed, if it's not the right time or it's not the right fit, or there's something else that they need to do prior to hiring us. So we try to give them as much help as we can in those calls. There are many services that when someone calls in, our client engagement specialists can pick up right away and say, hey, we know exactly what needs to happen here, and let's get you signed up. And we do that very quickly. We have proprietary systems that we use to engage people very quickly without a lot of what I would consider hopefully stress, because it's already stressful. They're already stressed. And we try to not have them anymore to add stress to people that are calling in. And so we try to make this process very quick, simple, and efficient. Once they are signed up, a retainer gets sent and they can sign it very quickly, easily, even on their phones. And once they're engaged, we begin work. The case gets assigned to one of our pods. It is based on complexity, geography, court case dates. A lot of criteria go into it. We don't just haphazardly throw the client into our systems. We really intentionally make sure that they go to the best pod that's going to make sure that they get the outcome that they've told the client engagement specialist that they are desiring. Once that case gets assigned, the paralegals reach out to the clients and start gathering as much information and evidence and things like that as they can. That's typically how the start to the files and the start to the workflows begin. Once we get the clients in and they get the information and things start really rapidly rolling, we can start to file petitions very quickly because of how we have our systems internally and our relationships with our process server down to sometimes relationships with the facilities we're serving helps us efficiently and quickly get emergency petitions filed and things like that. And so after, let's just say it's a Baker Act, a petition gets filed, we can see very rapid results of possible release very, very quick. We never guarantee, but we have a lot of statistics that we know we have real handle on timing of how these cases flow, and we try to operate according to that timing.
Most of our cases get filed as much, but I tell clients there's two things we don't have control over. I don't have the control over the clerk of the court, how quickly the clerk reviews the case, and I don't have a control of the judge. I can't make the judge hear the case any quicker or rule a specific way. And I tell clients, look, part of our intake process is to figure out, do we have a really good chance of winning the case? Because as you said, the bar does not allow lawyers to make guarantees. We can give you an opinion, tell you, I think we have a great shot at this. This is probably what's going to happen based on our experience of handling hundreds of these things. But you can't take the human element out, right?
Correct. Sometimes just there are going to be things that timing wise or certain changes, decisions that the family wants to make. We're ready for all of it. And for the most part, I think that we really have a handle on the timing. Once those actions are taken, and depending on if there are court hearings and things like that involved, that's also another whole set of processes that our attorneys and our paralegals have done hundreds and hundreds of times, have good relationships with the JAs, and we have good relationships with the judges. And yeah, our attorneys kick ass in court. What can I say?
They do a great job. And I always tell people this. I tell them, you don't want me. Our associates are better lawyers than me anyway. Both Kristen and Corey, I think, bring a unique skill set, as you do, right? I feel like we learn from each other. We brought you in because you're way more about operations than I'll probably ever forget.
And probably more than you ever care to. Yeah.
Yes.
I kind of nerd out. You definitely have more interest in other facets of the law firm than sometimes creating a checklist. But that's okay. That's why we're all needed.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, people say, they ask me, why do you do the podcast? Why do you put out all that social media stuff? And I think for us, it's about giving value to our potential clients, right? You can go on Google, you can go on ChatGPT, and we know that ChatGPT is giving all the kinds of wrong information. But the reason I'm not in the courtroom is so we can give potential clients, families out there, the information they need. And they, based on that, then they can decide, do they want to call us, right? And I put, there's over 1,000 videos on YouTube. We record 2 or 3 podcasts every week. I spend a lot of time giving information away for free. So you don't necessarily have to hire a lawyer just to get the information. And then you can decide if you want to work with us.
Yeah, I think that's the key to it. And, we value our clients enough to charge them a rate that we know we are going to care for their matter so that they aren't worried about it. We're really just trying to take that stress and worry and why they're up at night and all of that away. That's the value. The actual what's going to happen and the technical stuff, you're going to pay an attorney $500, $1,000 an hour sometimes for a consultation to get that. Just go to our YouTube channel. It's all there. You can get as much information as you want. You have done an amazing job getting all of, you can look up anything and it's in there in terms of how to do something, where to go for something, what to expect, how the legal process works, how we help also bridge a gap between from the courtroom to maybe extra care or to a clinician or to a facility. And we can help with that. That's the value of our services so that you're not having to navigate all of that mess. But the knowledge piece, don't go to an attorney and spend money on that. We have all kinds of content on our website, the YouTube channel. You're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So just do some research first and then don't pay for a consultation.
Not yet, anyway. All right, one last thing before I let you go. Obviously, we're trying to help more people, which means we're going to hopefully build out our team and continue to build out our team. From an operations perspective, what does that look like? Because I know we're constantly keeping you busy.
We are very tied to helping more people. In order to do that, we can't just have Mark, obviously, do everything. That is the whole point. So we have to build the team. In order to help even more people, we are going to be expanding our team. It does not dilute the quality of the work and the care that we give to our clients. I think that is something that I have a personal mission as a law firm operations professional in making sure that our clients understand they are hiring a sophisticated and properly grown up firm. We're hiring, we have in the works a third pod, and these pods allow us to cover geographical regions of Florida that we can cover, but I think we can obviously open more files, help more people, and do more work when we have more people on our team to be able to do that.
That's where we're going, right? We're trying to help as many people as we can. But frankly, I don't think we could do it without you. We're so happy that you are with us. And so now you know who, between you and my wife, I'm just the mouthpiece at this point, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I got you doing the operations. My wife is controlling all the money and running the team.
We all work for Audra. That's what we always remember. And no, I have so much hope for our clients and families because I've been able to actually really see. I've seen it. I saw it fractionally for a period of time, but these last 6 months, I have really seen how grateful they are when we can give them what I consider just any smidgen of hope when they've been going through something so yucky for a long period of time. And it is so rewarding. And I think that's why we have the longevity that we do with our team and we have the dedication that we do with our team. Sometimes there are nights and weekends that get a little bit long and harried and things like that, but we don't have a single complaint, not one. And I think that's a testament to you and Audra and how you have created a mission and vision that people can come alongside and join if this is something that's meaningful to them. And I think we're only going to get better. And that's the goal, is to continuously improve.
We're very blessed to have an amazing team. And I know there have been times where we've hired people that either this wasn't something they were comfortable with, or it just wasn't a good fit for us and we had to part ways with them. I think that we spend a lot of time vetting prospective team members, but if it's obvious that it's not a good fit either from their perspective or our perspective, we're just going to part ways, because at the end of the day, we're here to save these families. And if we've got somebody that we're working with who just, for whatever reason, is uncomfortable with the work or just doesn't care or is not a good fit, then we let them go. And that's that.
We live in the greatest country on the planet, and we can work in so many different ways, and especially attorneys too. There's all different kinds of things we can decide to get involved in and do, and all kinds of areas of law and things like that. So this really has to be a calling. And I just think that it is a very special culture, and people that get it, they're in it and they're in it for life. And then people that may not, or it's just, it didn't turn out the way they thought it was, or it wasn't quite what they were expecting or what have you, that's okay too. We help them find a soft place to land and we move on. But it is a very special culture.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Thanks for joining us this morning, Jessica. I'm so glad
Thanks
to
for
see you.
having me. I'm so excited to have seen, I see these, but
Now you've been on one.
now I can be on one. It's great.
So folks, you've got to meet a very important member of our team. If you want to find out more about the work that we do, our website is mentalhealthaddictionlawfirm.com. That's mentalhealthaddictionlawfirm.com. Or as Jessica said, just go on YouTube and Google my name and you'll find all those videos that we put out there. So until the next time, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode of The Journey.